Yo guys, what's good? It's your boy Pizza Javi and welcome back to another video. Today, my hands-on experience using the Scuf Envision Pro controller for 3 months straight. Been using it every day. My main controller, I didn't try and baby it. I've been beating it up a little bit. I didn't try and clean the control. I didn't try and make any appearance changes. I'm giving you everything raw, 100% real. This is going to be my honest review. If it helps you come to a decision whether you like this controller or you hate this controller, let me know in the comments because there's been a lot of mixed reviews online. With that being said, we're going to get into a few key points. Today I'm going to be talking about the condition of the controller. I want to talk about the software that it takes to run the controller by Corsair, the iCue software. I'm talking about just hardware, how long the batteries are lasting, comfortability, ergonomics. I want to talk about some of the perks of having extra paddles and G keys and how I've been using them in practical ways. That's really about it. I got no script here. Got a couple key points that I kind of just want to get into, and we'll do this very naturally. Let's do this together. All right. So, first things first, I just want to talk about the condition of this controller. The condition, in my opinion, has not deteriorated one bit. It looks just as good as it did when I took it out of the package. Feels just as good. Didn't lose any of its like texture, its grip, nothing like that. All the face keys, all the triggers, everything's still operational. We got mouse click triggers, we got mouse click face buttons. Thumbsticks aren't drifting, they're staying nice and snappy. They don't feel like mushy or anything. Even the textures on the back of the controller, all the little details and minute like etchings they put into the plastics on this, all still there. I cannot complain one bit about the condition of how everything feels. So now getting into a little bit of the hardware of this controller, I want to first talk about the battery life. In my opinion, I think the battery life is a little bit short compared to other controllers on the market. It's not an issue for me because I'm not playing for 24-hour streams. I'm not going in for longer than 20 hours. I find that this control lasts about 15 to 20 hours depending on if you have vibration on, if you have some mural designs on, if you have lighting effects, if you're using all the G key functionalities. If you have some sort of, eco mode on, it lasts a little bit longer. There is an eco mode feature in this. It turns all the extra lights off on the controller, keeps it very minimal, and that extends the battery life a little bit. But I would say about 15 to 20 hours is what you're going to get out of a single charge of this before you start getting that battery low notification. Other things as far as ergonomics, I wish there was a few changes on this controller. Just a couple. I would say the first thing that I noticed getting this controller in my hand, getting comfortable with it, the paddle positioning was much different than my previous controller's paddle positioning. So, I speak from experience coming from the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, where in my opinion, those are the most comfortable paddles that I've ever used on any sort of controller. I feel like the paddle length, the paddle positioning was very natural, easy to find and press. The Scuf Envision Pros, I wish that paddle 1 and paddle 4, the lower paddles, were extended by maybe a centimeter. Just a tiny bit to free up a little bit extra space on the back there. I don't have any like giant hands. My hands are very normal size. Like I don't have really thick fingers. I don't have long fingers, anything like that. And even for me, I feel like the grip on the back of the controller is a little bit congested. Now, with that being said, I'm someone who grips the controllers with my middle fingers and my ring fingers on the paddles constantly. So, I feel like lowering or extending that bottom paddle P1 and P4 will free up a little bit of wiggle room and keep those fingers from being so close together, and it will make the ergonomics a little bit more comfortable in my opinion. I think they could just have a little bit more length to them so people with, bigger fingers, thicker hands, longer fingers could have a little bit better of purchase on that controller. The start in select buttons, or the start share buttons, whatever you want to call them nowadays. I also wish they were heightened, just slid up on the face of the controller a tiny bit. The positioning is slightly lower than that on the DualSense 5 controller, but the Scuf is a little bit closer to the D-pad and the X button. I haven't had too much issues of accidental inputs when trying to reach for that, but what I have been doing is actually missing the button completely because my muscle memory coming from the PS5 controller is dialed in to be a little bit higher. So I keep hitting the empty space above the select button or the start button. It's not a huge issue for me. One thing that I feel like they may have missed out on, since this is a PC dedicated controller, is actually implemented some sort of touchpad. If I had some sort of touchpad on this controller to navigate my PC, control my cursor, maybe have 1 or 2 extra programmable buttons via that faceplate touchpad, that would be great. I kind of get why they didn't put it into the design of the controller, since the faceplate is removable. The customization of the control kind of took away from the utility of the control, not having a touchpad on the faceplate. But a little bit of wasted space, maybe. Touchpad's not super useful on the PS5, but it could have been way more useful for, like I said, a PC dedicated controller. But there is endless potential with this controller. Truthfully, I say that wholeheartedly. The iCue software allows programming for things like, of course, remapping face keys, changing inputs in general. We could launch apps. We could, do swap scenes in different applications like OBS or Streamlabs. We could control external applications like my Insta360 Link software. We could, program macros. We could program key strings. We could program hotkeys from OBS. Anything under the sun. Truthfully, that's what the G keys are great for. The shoulder buttons were a huge change for me at first, but I feel like I can't go back now. I need those shoulder buttons. I love the fact that they're so close. They're not like easy to press on accident. I thought I was gonna have a lot more accidental inputs with them. I don't. They're really nice, honestly. I feel like they did a good job with the positioning of them. And as far as triggers, the triggers are adjustable from hairline triggers to full analog travel triggers. We have, different options for different games. So if we're playing, let's say, a racing game and we want to have a progressive gas pedal and we don't want to just floor it every time, we could switch from our instant mouse click to a progressive trigger where we get a little bit of that exponential input, and we could dial it in 20% of the trigger pull, 40%, 60%, however much, instead of going from 0 to 100 with the instant hair triggers. That's all done without tools. There's a little switch on the back of the trigger. You flip it over and it happens instantaneously. You don't have to program anything differently in the software. It's all hardware for that. The shoulders and the paddles just give you a faster response time during combat, during, peak gamer moments when you need to keep that movement happening and you need to get those inputs in at the same time. That's what the paddles and the shoulders are there for. You put your most used inputs onto those bad boys, you're good to go. I got heals, I got grenades typically on my shooting games for the shoulders. So I'm running, I need a heal, left shoulder button, perfect. I'm running, I need to equip grenades without taking fingers, boom, there we go, right shoulder coming in. Talking about the software, the iCue software has to be open while using the controller. It doesn't have to be in the foreground. You could minimize it. You could close the window out completely and have it down in your toolbar, just running in the background. That's how you're going to get full functionality off of this controller. Now, with that being said, that software has such a minimal impact on the workload of your PC. It should not be as big of a complaint that I've been hearing that it is online. It's not a complaint that's even on my radar. I get it, yo. I get it. If you want full functionality, you're going to need the software available and on hand, ready to be used. If the software took up like loads and loads of processing power on my CPU or my GPU, that's one thing. But I'm telling you, like, using this controller while gaming, while playing, there has been like 0.01% workload from iCue being open in the background. It's the same way that my Insta360 Link camera works. I could use the camera without the functionality of, the gimbal snap twos and the zooms and all this other stuff. If I don't have the software open, the camera could still be launched and operating just like a normal camera. That's the same thing with this control. The control you could use even without the iCue software available. It works like a regular controller. You still get your shoulder buttons and your paddle access, but for things like the G keys and those programmable hotkeys for macros and scene swaps and app control and camera control and everything under the sun that you could do with this, of course the software has to be open, running in the background in some sort of way. The only thing that you can't utilize are those face G keys when the software is closed. The one thing that is very weird to me, one thing that I didn't really understand or like, was for some reason the controller is having issues with firmware updates. When you're operating the iCue software and you want to check for firmware updates, I keep getting the same message over and over again. It says update failed for the Scuf Envision Pro wireless receiver as well as the Scuf Envision Pro. So I'm not sure if that means that there's no available update or that the update is like having an error actually installing. Firmware updates in the iCue software a little bit confusing. Software updates on the other hand, I have automatic downloads on, and every time I come in, I check and see if there's a new update, and there usually is some sort of new update. So that gives me hope that, Corsair is working on some sort of solution when it comes to getting these updates to us and fixing them firmware updates. So in the future, I'm hoping that there's a little bit clearer of a reasoning on why some of these firmware updates aren't getting actually installed, or if they're just not available. Talking a little bit more about the iCue programming, Corsair did a really good job at making this a straightforward programming experience. It's as easy as it could be. It's assign, click, done. You could save presets to the iCue software. So what that means is there's a full library of saved inputs that you could swap in and swap out on the fly. You don't have to create a new one every single time. You could keep it in your data bank, drag and drop into place depending on what you're doing for that day, what game you're playing. You could create multiple different profiles, swap in between on the fly, make sure you have everything that you need while gaming, get all your programming done out of the way. Only changes that I've really made to this controller was I bought the Scuf Envision Tactical Universal Thumbstick Grips. I am rocking one of those thumbstick grips on my right thumbstick. It's giving me the extended height with a concave thumb pad. The extended thumbsticks that came with the Scuf Envision Pro were domed sticks. I'm not a huge fan of a domed thumbstick, so I picked these bad boys up on Amazon. It came with 4 different thumbstick caps, both domed and convex, so you can swap them in and out. They fit the thumbsticks super snug. I haven't had any issues with them sliding off, with them like kind of biting into the thumbstick and leaving indents. They're definitely built for this controller. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap up the review for the Scuf Envision Pro controller. It's been treating me well. 3 months in, hope we could make it to a 1 year mark with this controller. I'll give you a 1 year update. Is it still worth buying? I can't complain too much. There's a couple little hiccups, a couple little things that Corsair could work through as we move forward, and the control's in the market's hands for longer. Hopefully they listen to videos like this and take into consideration what the users need, because this could be an amazing controller. It's a great controller in my opinion. I really like it. I'm not regretting buying it at all. I hope that the software pairs up with the hardware here. The hardware, what we have, is great. The software needs a little bit of work to kind of work out some kinks with updates, you know, make the reliability of the software a little bit stronger. I think it's a great controller. I think, you know, there could be some improvements in the future. I think they may have just put this out to see what the community needs. Because, you know, the community has the best ideas. Y'all listen to the people. The people are going to tell you what we want. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe to your boy. Reach out if you have any questions. I'll catch you guys in another video. Pizza out, yo. Bye.